Hey, so I've been getting a lot of questions about the A6400, so I figured we would just answer some of those today. So it seems like a lot of people are having issues recording in 24 frames per second. Now this is a very easy fix, and it just depends on which format you are recording in. So there are two formats. There's PAL and there's NTSC. Now PAL is the European standard and NTSC is the North American standard. So you're going to want to film everything in NTSC, and that's going to get you access to 24 frames per second. Now another question is about motion blur and how to get rid of it. And this kind of falls in the realm of the exposure triangle. So motion blur happens, and I can show you really quick. So now you'll see that as I'm talking, there is a lot of motion blur. I can even further exaggerate that. You can see the video isn't smooth by any means. There is a lot of motion blur. It's very bright. Things are happening. This definitely isn't what you want. All right, and here we are back to normal. So what was going on there and how do you fix it? Well, the thing that I was changing was my shutter speed. There's a general rule when it comes to video, and you want your shutter speed to be twice your frame rate. So right now, I'm shooting in 24 frames per second, so my shutter speed is the closest that I can get to that, 1/50. Now if I were to bump it up and shoot in 60 frames per second, my shutter speed would be 1/120. And bumping it up even more, going to 120 frames per second, my shutter speed would be 1/250th. This is why filming slow motion and filming in higher frame rates is really hard to do in low light situations, because you have to have your shutter speed at least twice that of your frame rate. At these higher speeds, your shutter is opening and closing so fast that not a lot of light is coming in. And that makes it really hard to film slow motion in these low light situations. That's why you get a lot of grain. And that leads into another thing. Why is there grain? Well, that grain is actually noise. So if you're trying to film at 120 frames per second, you have to have your shutter speed at least 250 to be consistent with the motion blur. This means that less light is getting into your camera, so you might have to bump up your ISO. Well, the ISO, it's like your last line of defense for light. So you want to keep your ISO as low as possible, and that's going to give you your cleanest image. Well, if your aperture is already as open as it can get, your shutter speed is as low as it can get, which means that it's twice your frame rate, you have no other choice but to bump up your ISO. Now, by doing this, you might see these particles, these noise, this fuzziness within your video. That is normal. That is going to happen. That's called noise. But that is what that noise is just you need more light. You can go and buy things like denoisers. Red Giant has one for like $200, and that is going to help get rid of some of that noise within your footage. If you are experiencing this in the daytime, then maybe your settings just aren't correct. So we might as well go over Aperture while we're at it. So Aperture is the final thing in this exposure triangle. It's how much light is being let in by your lens. So different lenses have different apertures. There's a wide range of apertures out there. The lower the number, the better low light performance. Also, the more blurry the background. So the higher the number, the less light coming into your camera, the less blurry the background will be. So if you're filming a lot in low light, you might want to look into buying a fast lens, which means a lens that has a lower aperture. If you are in the Sony realm of things, look into Sigma. There is the Sigma 30mm 1.4 and a Sigma 16mm 1.4. Those lenses will be pretty good in low light. This is another very quick tip that someone was asking me about. When you're filming videos, make sure you're in the video dial at the top of your camera. This is going to get you the best results. It's telling your camera that you are going to be filming videos. I'm pretty sure you can record while in some of the picture dials, but it's definitely not recommended, and your settings might not be the best. So sometimes when you're filming, there might be these black bars that go across the screen. Sometimes they'll move, sometimes they won't, and this is pretty normal, and it depends on the lights in the area that you're at. So some lights, like restaurants or venues or something like that, they might have really bad like tungsten lights or lights that just don't, their frequency that they're flickering on and off just doesn't work well with the frequency that you're trying to film. So if you see this happening, change your shutter speed. You can also change your frame rate in order to change that shutter speed. So if you see this happening in 60 frames per second, bump up your shutter like 1 or 2. That's gonna make everything like really crisp and stuff. And if you still don't see anything happening, maybe go to 24 frames per second and do the same thing. Start off with double your frame rate and then go up 1 or 2 from there. You just have to find this good combination between what your shutter speed is and what frequency the lights are flickering at to make those bars. And it's normal. It's not your camera's fault. Your camera isn't, you don't need to send your camera out. That should be pretty good for you guys to get up and running. If you have more information, let me know. I can make a separate video just on like the exposure triangle, because knowing that is really going to help you. But you guys should be able to get out there and start making videos and have a little bit more understanding of how your camera is working and be able to fix some of the issues that you run into. But that's all that I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, let me know if you have any questions about how to use your camera in the comments below, even if that is my recommendation for a lens that you should get. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, and